Hi, it's Jesse Zeman, member update for the end of February 2024. It's trade show season. We're going to be at the BC Sportsman Show this weekend, helping the Nickel Enhancement Society in their kids fishing pond, and we'll also have a BCWF booth there. Come on down and see us. In March, we'll be at the BC Outdoors Show as well, which is a great show. Around the world of learn to hunt and learn to fish, we just launched a number of women's workshops, so foraging, fly casting, and women's only core. And in the world of learn to fish, we're going to have a 5-part learn to fly tie series with Brandon Molzan from Tying is My Vice. So super exciting if you are new to hunting and fishing, or you're looking to, kind of brush up on your skills. We got a whole bunch of courses that are being launched right now. In the world of conservation webinars, we just finished up a CWD webinar with Kate from the province of BC. Tons of engagement. We had a whole pile of viewers on. Lots of great questions. It's very apparent that people care. It was also very apparent that our test times are taking way too long. We don't have enough drop-off depots, and our testing facilities, which we're using out in Saskatchewan, we're now using them in BC, or we will be. But the bottom line, what we got out of that is the program's been underfunded. It needs money if we want to try to get a handle or limit the spread of CWD in BC, and it needs to be done quickly. So we will be engaging the province. We already have. But again, if BC is going to continue to act the way it has in the past, we're going to have a major problem. So as people who care about conservation, about wildlife, and about the future of hunting and fishing, we're going to have to stand up and be counted. We were just out in Alberta last week giving a keynote on the effects of wildfire and controlled, prescribed, and cultural burns on wildlife and on people. The irony was last Friday was the same day that Alberta declared its wildfire season open. We also have a controlled burn that was planned for the South Okanagan for this spring, and we've been told we've already missed the window. So it's February right now, and the indication is that it's already wildfire season and we're already past the window for controlled burns. So this summer is really not looking great for fish and water, and it's not looking great for people's houses as it relates to wildfire. The Land Act has been put on pause. A ton of members who engaged on that, so good work. The next piece following Land Act is hunting regulations. Now, these hunting regulation proposals have come out at the very last minute. Members of the provincial hunting, trapping, and angling advisory team have asked the province ever since last year and all the way into last spring of last year for a copy of them. Never received a copy. We're not briefed. This process is at least 4 months behind for public engagement. It's coming out for a month of engagement. This is ironic because last year we had the grizzly bear stewardship public engagement, which dragged on for months and months and months and months and kept on getting extended. So as people who care about conservation and as hunters, you're being jammed right now by the province on public consultation. Now, when you look in those regulations, what you're going to find is a whole bunch of words like hunter density, too many people. You're also going to see a whole bunch of regulation changes which are not consistent with over 40 years of policy and procedure that the province has put together as we have invested hundreds of millions of dollars into science, not only here in BC, but all over North America. So our partnership with the province and all of the research that we've provided and supported and paid for, the province is heading down a very different road, saying, there's too many hunters on the landscape. Well, we know that's not true. We know that BC has some of the lowest hunter densities in North America. We know that BC has sustainable hunting seasons. We know that where some of our highest hunter densities are, that wildlife is actually thriving. We also know that as a resident hunter, someone from BC, if you are lucky enough to get a moose LEH, or lucky enough to be somewhere where there's a spike fork season, and you go hunting, you're going to spend all of 9 days on average per year out hunting moose. And the province is saying that's too much. So there are 365 days in the year that people could go hunting. As licensed hunters, we get 9 days a year, and the province is saying there's too many hunters and you're spending too much time out there. It's completely unsupported by all of the science that we have. And it's completely unsupported by the values that are consistent with the North American model of wildlife conservation. There's also a whole pile of technical challenges in those hunting regulation proposals. So the response needs to be loud. You need to CC your MLA on this. And you also need to say, we need to stick to science-based wildlife management in British Columbia. As soon as we head down this road of managing for social or political values on wildlife, hunting in BC, licensed hunting, will get canceled. The road that we're going down means that you, as a British Columbian, end up getting less and less and less access to parks, to hunting, to fishing, to getting out on the land. So we're going to have to push back as a group intensively on what these proposals are essentially doing over the long term and what they're abandoning. Following on the heels of hunting regulations and all of the problems associated with that is the BC budget. Now, we've been tracking the BC budget along with some other researchers since 1974. Now, the budgets that take care of things like land, air, water, forests, fish, and wildlife are generally housed in three ministries now. So Ministry of Forests, Ministry of Water, Land, Resource Stewardship, and the Ministry of Environment. It gets fairly nuanced, but what I'm going to tell you, the bottom line is this year's BC budget, as a proportion of all of our spending, is the worst year on record for taking care of land, air, water, fish, and wildlife. In the 1970s, 80s, and even into the 1990s, BC was spending 4 to 5% of its provincial budget to take care of all things nature. This year, they're going to be spending less than 1%, which is the worst in, basically 50 years of tracking. So if you're okay with only 1% of your tax dollars going into taking care of what you cherish and love the most, that's great. I think for the rest of us, that's not enough. When we look at how the budget has been adjusted for inflation, we are spending like it's the 1980s right now, where we had recessions, high inflation, and about half the population that we currently have. So the message you should get out of that is twofold. On hunting regulations, we need to stop the political and social management. We need to stick to science, ensure that hunting is sustainable, and manage it that way. As it relates to the BC budget, we need to start investing. Otherwise, we're going to be burning people's houses down every year. We're going to be wiping them out with landslides. We are going to continue to drive caribou, steelhead, some salmon populations to extinction. We will continue to see moose decline in parts of the province because the province really doesn't care about fish and wildlife. So pick up a pen and some paper or go see your MLA. Let them know how important this stuff is to you. There's a provincial election coming up. We all need to stand up and be counted. Otherwise, our kids and their kids are not going to be able to go out and see caribou and steelhead and moose, and they sure as heck are not going to be able to go hunting or fishing. Thanks. Talk to you soon.